In this video, we're going to be installing a Black+Decker 525 square foot cartridge filter. And so this video is going to be useful for you if that's what you intend to do for yourself. And I suppose it would be also interesting if you have a sand filter and you want to replace your sand filter with a cartridge filter. Well, that's what we're doing in this video. So getting started here, just like every plumbing system in the world that a service tech works on, there's a bunch of stuff here that we should probably cut out and replace. This is not an ideal installation here. There's not enough straight intake on this pump. You saw how oxidized some of the pipes were, but the truth is that most pool owners are reluctant to replace anything that is not in desperate need of being replaced. So this installation is just going to look at the cartridge filter. I'm not going to be changing all of the things there that we both know should probably be changed, just the cartridge filter installation. So let's get started here. Cutting open this box for the Black+Decker. I guess we'll just call this the unboxing section of the video. First things first, of course, the instruction manual. I always endorse in my videos, just read the instruction manual. There's helpful information in the care and maintenance tips, things that you're going to want to know because pool equipment is expensive, and a nice large cartridge filter like this is an expensive component, and you want to know how to take care of it properly. Okay, so locating it in place is a lot easier than moving the old sand filter, which is full of wet sand still. Let's go ahead and open up this filter and we'll take a look at what's inside it and how it all works. So that top manifold that my hand's sitting on, that plastic piece, that's just friction fit. So it's kind of snug. It doesn't just like fall out. You gotta pull on it a bit, but that's it. It just pops right off. It's the O-ring which provides the friction connection point. From here, the filters are just standing. There's 4 round nubs on the bottom, which you locate the filters on, and that's all that holds them in place. It's the top manifold more so that holds them in place securely than the bottom. Take a look in the tank here. As you can see, not a lot going on the bottom here, so we'll go ahead and just put these filters back in, assemble this filter back together, and get ready to install it. But before we install it, there are a few small things that we should probably do. This is probably just a good idea to do for any cartridge filter installation. And I'm going to start by, once I get this manifold back on here, I'm going to start by looking at the O-ring around the tank flange here. If this felt like it was, covered in a lubricant already fresh from the factory, maybe I'd leave it, but normally they come and they feel pretty dry. And if you do a lot of plumbing work, you know that dry O-rings and gaskets really is not a good idea. So just go ahead and get some silicone-based O-ring lubricant and apply a generous dose to this entire O-ring for your filter flange here. At this point, be careful to not drop it or have sand or pine needles on your hands or anything like that. The silicone stuff is pretty sticky, so it's going to make any debris stick to this, and you definitely don't want that. You want this O-ring to be nice, clean, and clear before you assemble the split flange on your filter tank. Opening up the unions, the union connection points which come with the filter. That's nice. I find that not all equipment manufacturers have traditionally included union connection points. A lot of times it would rely on just PVC plumbing parts like male adapters, but these are a much better solution here. Modernly, I expect pool equipment to be coming with easy to work with unions like you see there. The threads that I'm connecting this pressure gauge and air release or air relief valve at the top here, it's actually an O-ring connection on there. You can't see it because it's too small, but that's why I applied some silicone lubricant to that as well. With the filter gauge, when you put the filter gauge in, this is important because this filter is new. You do not want to over tighten this. You don't want to bury this filter gauge so that the threads are entirely touching, because over time you're probably going to end up having to tighten this further, and if you're already burying the threads, you have nowhere further to go. So a more generous dose of the, or wrap of the Teflon tape will result in the threads not needing to go so far in order to get a watertight connection on your filter gauge. Okay, so we slide the filter into place here. Unfortunately, the paving stones that I'm working with here are far from level, so I monkey around a little bit here just trying to get this thing to sit level somewhere. But also, note that the sand filter had the connection points on top of the tank, whereas the connection points for this filter are on the bottom here. Now, I'm going to introduce a very important concept here. If you are installing a cartridge filter where you used to have a sand filter, we need to make a change. We need to take a three-way diverter valve and locate it right here in between the pump and the filter. And the reason why we're going to do that is to allow pumping to waste. If I want to drain the water level in the pool, or I want to vacuum a heavy debris load but avoid putting it directly into this cartridge filter, I'm going to need to install a three-way diverter valve in between the pump and the filter. So let's go ahead and get started here and cut this old pressure line from the pump off. Clean that up a little bit, deburr the edges. When I started in the plumbing industry, I used to use a hacksaw for all of my plumbing work, and I have to tell you, a variable speed reciprocating saw is definitely where it's at if you're a swimming pool plumber modernly. Okay, so there's that three-way diverter valve. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to connect it. And here's something I want you to know. See that inlet mark on this three-way diverter valve? That's actually very important. You want to observe the direction of flow, and the inlet refers to where the water is coming from. So the pump is pushing water, right? So where that water enters this valve, that needs to be the inlet. And currently, it's not oriented correctly for the orientation of the diverter valve I need. So I'm going to remove this carefully, and I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise by 90 degrees, and I'm going to aim the inlet towards the direction of flow for the water which is entering the diverter valve. And that's the reason you do this. There's a reason you do this. And the reason why is now it will be impossible for me to deadhead the pump. That's the whole idea here, is if the inlet is oriented in the wrong location, it is possible that you could go up to the system and you could turn a valve like this one here, and now the pump is deadheaded. And what that means is that there's nowhere for the water to go. The pump is generating massive pressure, but it's a complete brick wall that it's hitting here. And so that's why that inlet orientation on a diverter valve is very important. You need to pay attention to that. So getting to the solvent welding here, we're using Weld-On products, which is basically all I use for solvent welding. I guess it's just what I got used to using, you know, after decades of plumbing swimming pools. That was the premier brand that I worked with, and they've expanded their line quite a bit to include a number of additional pool industry specific solvent cements and primers, so that's pretty cool. So as I'm going along here, don't worry if you're not moving quickly like me. Like I was a pool plumber for decades, so you only need to plumb your system in one time. Take your time, make sure that everything is plumb, square, fits nicely, doesn't have strain on the joints. That's very important. Now I'm proceeding to the diverter valve here. Again, this is an optional component. You don't technically need to have this diverter valve installed. You could just go directly from the pump into the filter, and many people do. This is an optional extra that I find because I do endorse cartridge filters a lot. I think they're the best filters that you can get for swimming pools. And the only disadvantage, if they have one, is that they lack a multi-port valve like a sand filter has. So you know how when you backwash a sand filter or you pump to waste, that's a convenient feature. And we would be losing that feature with this cartridge filter if we were to not install a diverter valve in between the pump and filter. So that's what I'm working on here. And this is going to allow me to install a roll-out lay flat hose. And that's what will go on to the third port of the diverter valve. I'll have a roll-out hose that anytime I need to drain the water level in the pool or vacuum a heavy debris load that I don't want to go directly into the filter, I'm going to roll out that lay flat hose. I'm going to turn off the pump, change the orientation of that diverter valve I just installed. So now I'm pumping to waste instead of pumping directly into the filter. So at this point here is just a couple more connections to finish connecting from the pump to the filter. Again, this is not ideal. It's more connection points than I would like to see. But again, this is it's a little bit of a tight installation here. I convinced them to let me cut out that one piece of heavily oxidized Spaflex pipe. Realistically, that thing couldn't stay. It was threatening to just let go at any time now. So I felt that just had to go. So when you're doing a dry fit like that, that's a good idea to make sure that the pipe fits perfectly on both sides. And there we go. Just make sure that it doesn't slip back off. Hold it for a couple of seconds. And Bob's your uncle. Okay, just a few more connection points here to make, because of course we've got from the pump into the diverter valve and into the filter, but we still need to connect from the filter back into the remainder of the plumbing system here. Removing the old 45 there because there wasn't quite enough of a connection point for me to make a sound connection. The Black+Decker filter comes with 2-inch native ports. Now this plumbing system is entirely done in 1.5-inch pipe, 1.5-inch plumbing. And so it's completely fine, and it's actually pretty normal in the world of swimming pool systems to change readily in between 1.5 and 2-inch. So for example, you saw the 2-inch ports and you saw me put a reducing bushing in there. Now we're 1.5, and you're thinking, well, is that okay? Because the filter was made for 2-inch pipes, right? It has 2-inch ports. Totally 100% fine with this filter to change the pipe size down to 1.5 inch. I mean, from a design perspective, larger pipes are actually better because larger pipes allow the water to move slower, and slow moving water moves more efficiently than fast moving water. With that being said, there's compromises to be made when you're adapting an existing system. So here I'm going to switch to the Weld-On product 795, and that's because I'm dealing with a just tiny section of flexible PVC here with which to take the strain off of this pipe. The pipe is currently attached tight to the wall, but I need to make a connection where it's about 1/2 inch off of the wall, and so that's why I added that one little piece of flexible PVC. All in all, a win. I removed a lot of the flex PVC that was installed here, so I think that this looks and functions a lot better than it used to, and there we go. Okay, close up your primer and glue always, or you're going to knock it over. I definitely have done that too many times. There we go. Black+Decker filter installed. Okay, let's go ahead and take this apart one last time. I just wanted to show you the size of these filters here. So a 7-inch diameter filter. And it's over 32.5. It's like 32 and 5/8 inches long. And the reason that's important is one day you'll need to replace the filters in this. And you can buy them from Black+Decker, and you'll need to know the size of the filter. So that's going to be useful information for you to have. Go ahead and assemble the lid here. Now this is very important. You see that red tag hanging off the side of this band clamp I'm installing? Leave that red tag installed there. That's a very dire safety warning that all split flange pool filters have. These filters can be dangerous, and you have to ensure that they're tightened properly to make sure that they're safe. And that's what that red tag is alluding to. So you put the band clamp on, tighten up the bolt here, but you're going to feel it tighten up, but then go around and seat the band clamp further with the mallet, and you can see how much more readily I'm able to tighten it. There is a torque rating that you should be meeting here, 150 foot-pounds of torque. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a pool technician in my life using a torque wrench, but if you have one, you should use it because, again, the tightness of the band clamp on a split flange filter is very important. I hope you found this information helpful and this video about how to install a Black+Decker cartridge pool filter useful, and if you did, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.